Right now when she started to bleed and bleed and bleed and bleed, she said, long time I shake my bum bum. Give me room, let me shake my bum bum. Man, it's a long time now I shake my bum bum. Move like a fast, let me shake my bum bum. Some of them go watch me and believe I'm crazy, but one thing I have in mind is having a damn good time.
The truth.
Would you be handing your resignation to the Minister of Culture tomorrow, sir?
No, I will not.
The leader of the opposition, you have accused your government, sir, of using the Grenada Development Bank to facilitate the financing of personal loans for certain government ministers.
The other side is in no position to talk about those issues, and I will leave it there.
We discover new perspectives.
You know his leadership style, and so many are saying, why are you coming now to talk about those issues?
Now is the time to speak. You have the right to decide who will take over.
And you met with Dr. Mitchell, and perhaps you might want to confirm what that meeting was about in your response. But
Dr. Mitchell, like myself, are Grenadians.
We ask the right questions.
Why was there no report on the work done of the commission? And how is this new committee different from the commission that was initially established back in 2022? So who are these elements that are using you?
I'm disappointed in my political leader.
And why is that animating those political conversations now?
It's a very interesting question.
The Bub Reports with Dr. Kellon Bub. Thought-provoking, truthful, unbiased, and truly original reporting.
Tell us, a commissioner of police, tell a politician, back off. You have no knowledge of the law. You have no knowledge of law enforcement. You cannot force my officers to do the wrong thing.
But that is somebody's son. That is somebody's child. That is part of a family. And I think that is the part that they are missing out.
Because E and F are apt to be used oppressively.
It's like because we don't see disabled people as sexual beings, which is ridiculous.
You mean they don't want to listen to your version of science? They have their own science. You have your science.
What we need to do is teach people to think and not what to think.
Today, it's too bad that everybody do what they want.
If I could forgive Bernard Ford, then I could forgive Bob Morris too. And today, on this day, I no more have anything in my heart for what he did.
The education system has to be very fluid and dynamic because we're living in very different and changing times.
Treating all your citizens equally, all your citizens fairly, recognizing each group, not discriminating against one or the other.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Bub Report. Of course, it's the September 29th edition of the program. I'm your humble host, Dr. Kellon Bub. Now, if you're joining us on YouTube, please do us a favor by liking today's live stream and subscribing to our channel. Also, remember to share this week's program so that others can benefit from the rich content we deliver to you on a weekly basis. And now for our weekly editorial. In recent weeks, there have been several high-profile allegations of medical malpractice emerging from Grenada's beleaguered and under-resourced health system. The most recent case involving Damian Clowden is emblematic of decades-long laments about the poor state of healthcare in Grenada. Now, despite the hundreds of millions of dollars in annual budgetary support and thousands of dollars in donated medical supplies and other equipment, the hospital system in Grenada has become a sinkhole for taxpayers' dollars, while complaints about the quality of care continue to mount. This is not to say that the hospital does not deliver satisfactory outcomes, or that there are not high-caliber medical teams doing a tremendous job. The problem remains the consistently low reviews from dissatisfied people seeking care at the hospital. The General Hospital, despite all its efforts and its long line of hospital directors and board members, these assets have been unable to make a sustained difference in the eyes of the public. Now, we are also in the age of social media, where people can tell their own stories of unsatisfactory treatment without the need of assistance from traditional media. The hospital's image, as a result, has taken a beating. The public is also frustrated by the fact that accountability may be lacking when medical malpractice occurs. It took an act of public shaming by the family of Damian Clowden before a response could be forthcoming on his delicate state of care from the Director of Medical Services. So where do we go from here? While the current administration in St. George's is touting the construction of a new hospital facility with improved services in the Calavini area, we have seen that this shiny new hospital infrastructure never comes with improvements in health services. The polyclinic in Guave was touted as a beacon of hope for decentralized healthcare, but the jury is still out on whether it is another waiting room of death or whether it is living up to what it was expected to deliver in the first place. As the public health infrastructure in Grenada continues to suffer, it is therefore incumbent upon the citizens to go back to basics and take care of their primary healthcare first by engaging in good diet and exercise practices and nipping health challenges in the bud before a dreaded visit to the hospital becomes your final option. Folks, it is time that we save ourselves from ourselves, because the hospital services in Grenada are not going to be coming to save us. This is the Bob Report. We'll be back with our first guest, Tricia Simon, the president of the Grenada Agro-tourism Association. Please stand by.
Should your loved ones pass on, they deserve to be treated with dignity. And at S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, we can provide you with that service. We can take you every step of the way during your sorrowful moments. When that need arises, call S.A. Johnson Funeral Home at 347-777-9797. That's 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home is a Caribbean family-owned funeral home here in Brooklyn, providing funeral services, but in a dignified way. From cremation to burial to the repatriation of your loved ones, you don't have to go through the hassle, as we provide exceptional service that allows you to mourn and heal peacefully. For more information, visit our website, www.sajohnsonfuneral.org. Send us an email at sajfuneral@aol.com or call 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, because you deserve to be treated with dignity.
And viewers and listeners, welcome back to this week's edition of the Bob Report. Of course, if you're just joining us, Please remember to like and share this week's live stream. And if you're following us on our YouTube page, please remember to like and subscribe to our channel so that you will not miss another update from the Bub Report. Now, tourism is an important sector in the Caribbean and one of the largest industries for many small island economies. Agritourism and other forms of landscape-based tourism serves as important drivers for socioeconomic growth. The use of agritourism in the Caribbean region is vital as it can help enhance job opportunities, increase the resilience of livelihoods, and help conserve cultural and natural heritage, in addition to helping biodiversity across various landscapes. Agritourism is also a form of sustainable development, and the use of agritourism can help Caribbean countries promote food and nutrition security. If guidelines and criteria are created for agritourism, this would help to identify, evaluate, and develop complementary agritourism sites in the region. Now, our first guest will tell us about Grenada's Agritourism Thrust and the role of the Agritourism Association in promoting Grenada as one such destination. We're happy to be joined by Ms. Tricia Simon, who is the president of the Grenada Agri-Tourism Association. Ms. Simon, welcome to the Bub Report.
Thank you, Mr. Doctor, and I'm happy to be here.
Yes, absolutely. Now, tell us the genesis of agritourism. Has it always been part of the tourism product, or are we really innovating in this area?
I think, simply put, it's visiting a farm. You come on vacation and you visit a farm, as opposed to the Caribbean typically is known for the sun and for the sea. And so I would like to say the genesis really of Grenada agro-tourism would have started with Benlong Estate. I would like to give, Ms. Nayak her due in terms of really putting Grenada on the map when it comes to agro-tourism. So I thank her for that. And I think the rest of us are simply following in her footsteps and, expanding that market so that it becomes more widespread and it has more for socioeconomic, not just in certain areas, but, for lots of different farmers throughout the island.
Absolutely. Now, agritourism, of course, there was a viewer who was saying she didn't know that there was a agritourism association. So it's so important that you're here. But what about the potential for agritourism for Grenada? Now, data from the Caribbean demonstrate that at least one island, Puerto Rico, following the devastation wrought by Hurricane Maria, that is, not Ivan, the island blossomed into a major agritourism destination. What kind of innovation can we see in Grenada?
I think one of the things that you would see is agro-tourism combined with agro-processing. So maybe I need to go back and explain to the viewer what we do. So this association came about. My father is a taxi driver, Cosmo's my father, and on the cruise ship terminal. And, he's at that age where it's time to retire. So I said, okay, well, we have a farm, you're into tourism, so let's combine the two. And at this time, when it really took off, Petra Roach, who's the current CEO of GTA, was coming on board, and she gave us some tips, some guidelines in terms of where to go with where the industry is going, where she wants it to go, where GTA wants it to go. And so we just took up on that. The vice president is Bevan Charles, as well as some of the other individuals took up on that and said, okay, how is it we can help the industry grow? And, as I said, not only from an agro-tourism, but also include the agro-processing, which is the manufacturing arm. So unlike a lot of other businesses like farmers, and so we've decided to combine the two. And to the viewer, we have our Facebook as well as we have our Instagram page, and it's just our name. It's just Grenada Agro-Tourism. So you can go on and take a look at some of the agro-processors that are there. And it's interesting that at present, we're affiliated with about 60 agro-processors / farmers. So some may be only agro-processors and some may be the farmers who have the property, because the property is where you visit. So our model's this way, where you would visit a farm, do a farm tour, farm to table. So there's quite a lot of, you'd be shocked at how much of this is available throughout the island. So you'd come to, for instance, I operate Mompanasa's plantation. So you'd come to Mompanasa's plantation, you would have a meal. There are lots of different things that we offer at that plantation, for instance, like traditional bush tea. So that's important. So we have a bush tea ceremony. We also have a washing ceremony using cocoa. Mompanasa's plantation is a cocoa plantation. So we focus on cocoa, as well as, I've created the Grenada cocoa stew. So that's where instead of browning the sugar, you use cocoa. So you go to farms, and every farm, based on the theme, has different products. For instance, we came up with the concept where we have 4 different tours. One focuses on cocoa, so that's Grenada Heritage Cocoa Trail. And there are 2 participants. There's Trial and Chocolate, as well as Mompanasa's plantation. So you're able to see the process of the cocoa from start to finish. Tri-Island is the chocolate, Mompanasa's is the production side. Then you also have pure water. So we have one of the individuals who operate at Concord Estate. We have Bob's Model Farm. So they focus on the water aspect, as well as there is the tropical fruit extravaganza. So you have individuals who have fruit farms. There's also sea moss included in there, so that you can come and you can see the sea moss production and different things like that. And finally, there's a rainforest and spice tour. So you would focus on that middle of the island quadrant, where you go up the middle, and from there you'll be able to experience that. So so with this, especially with this new tourism season coming, we have these offerings where people can come to Grenada and experience something different. Because one of the challenges we have in terms of, we're small, we know that, but that, being small has its advantages, is our diversity of offerings when it comes to tourism. So for instance, if you come to Grenada, you visit some of the other sites, you visit, some of the major sites. You don't want to go to Granatang and so more than once. So you want to make sure that, you have different sites, different projects, how should I say, different projects available. So we were grateful in terms of, we got 2 grants actually. Both, one was from the Ministry of Tourism. So you under this community tourism grant, and this is where, you use the word socioeconomic potential. And so with that, it was for small scale farmers and small scale groups to be able to expand. So I said to someone, our group has a WASH program. Because what happened is, we had a meeting with GTA, and GTA said, well, in order for your 8 or so participants to come on, and remember, those are 8 new products coming on, you need to have toilets. We're like, okay, we're building toilets for the ones who need it. So that support, the government is supposed to implement that by December, and we're grateful for that. We also got a grant under the UNDP. And government is now also managing that. And what needs to happen with that, we decided that we needed an e-commerce website, as well as to help with the marketing and the social media, digital media aspect, because the social media takes up a lot of time. I'm a lawyer by trade. And trust me, this child that I'm, my brilliant idea, it takes me a lot of time. So we're trying to really be able to step up our game in terms of the advertising. And next, and we've had 2 expos, one last year and one this year. We're having, so it's great because we have it just after Carnival. So when everybody's like, I don't want to go back to New York with any EC, you give it to us. We have it in Market Square, and we're having it for Christmas. And as I said before, we're going to be going to New York. We're going to be going to Toronto in terms of having expos there, so that we can really showcase what we have. When I called tourism in Toronto, in the US, she said, and I said, oh, can we come? She's like, usually the hotels come. I'm like, we're still coming. Make space for us. Just give us a table. So when we come up, It's going to be October, November. The Council General is going to be hosting something for us in Manhattan. So most of that will be taste testing. I think what people have to realize is that as agro processors, most of us are small, and so we will get there. My father has an expression where he says, "Where horse does reach, donkey does reach." Okay, so it's just a matter of time for us to get our FDA approval for the US, get it for Health Canada, and all the EU legislation we need for export so that we're able to export. So as I said, when we go in October, November um, to the US, we're going to Boston with GTA, we're going to Connecticut with GTA, we're going to be in Manhattan, and of course, we're going to be in Brooklyn at Labby Market. So, and in December, we're looking to go to Miami and Georgia, where we're really trying to not only mostly let our diaspora know, listen, these are the things that we offer, but as well as, the general public in those areas so that they can come when they come to visit. It's something different, and the money basically gets spread throughout.
Absolutely, and I think that is very important. What I hear you saying here is that you are attempting to provide a different type of experience for a visitor to Grenada that not only caters to the typical tourist, which tends to be white, blue-eyed, and blonde, but we are tourists as well. We are tourists as people of Grenadian descent in the diaspora, yes, and we also invest in the economy as foreign investors too, as investors really. But can you talk about how you are attempting perhaps to get, you mentioned your father here, but getting other people who might have farms, large-scale farms, or even smaller farms involved in agritourism? What has that recruitment thrust been like for you?
It was, people were very receptive. Once I found out, okay, in the beginning, as I said, I called Bevan. Bevan is a VP. Bevan is my wing woman. I should call her that, And I said, listen, I want to do this. She's like, yeah. I think so far, anybody that we have asked, I mean, we're open. So it's either asking someone to come on or someone would approach us to come on. And so, we tend to work as a team. Bevan and I work very well. Work as a team in terms of being able to help others grow their business. Because as I said, the grant that we got, it was to help other individuals grow their business. And GTA, for instance, did an ad for us in terms of if you go to their website, it was pure farming, as well as when we had our expo, they took some footage so that individuals knew. And as I said, quite a bit of people know that we do exist. We're easy to be found. Just Facebook, Grenada Agro-tourism, Facebook as well as Instagram. We're very active on those two social media platforms. So it's just a matter of reaching out. Anybody who has a farm, reach out, and we would provide as much assistance and guidance. I think one of the things we do most is guidance. Somebody would say, oh, well, I have da, 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 da. I need to, and then we can say, okay, well, call this person or that person in terms of helping. And I think it's important. We're agrarian. Grenada is an agrarian society. That's where we stem from. So it's important for us to develop that aspect of our culture. And of course, we do try to include a lot of the cultural and heritage aspects of it. When I do my tours at Mompanasa's plantation, I wear a cultural outfit. We just came back from Guyana, where we did an expo highlighting different agro-processors, agro-tourism businesses. There were two there. There was Mompanasa's plantation and there was the Tower Estate. And coming from that, the reception we got in Guyana from wearing the traditional wear was very good. People wanted to take pictures. And so I said to the other members, guys, let's have a uniform in terms of our members. Every time you do a tour, or your staff, when they're there, they're going to have a uniform. So we've approached the Ministry of Education, in terms of having the kids come on. So when you look at the pictures and you speak to individuals like Angus Martin or Michael Jessame, who, Michael Jessame has been instrumental. There are two people who are instrumental in terms of really providing assistance and helping. And so thank you to them. I always say thank you. So what happens is, we already have 3 outfits for women, and then we're going to do the same for men. Where the kids will come on would be to, in terms of having the artwork done. Oh, yes. Yes. So typically, I tend to wear my traditional dress when I do a tour. I wear my traditional dress, and it's very receptive. It was funny. When we had our expo on August the 17th this year, because we closed 2 streets off at Market Square, the police has been, really grateful and, amazing in terms of helping us. One of the things, I was walking Lagoon Road, and somebody stopped me. He's like, "Oh, where did you get your outfit made? Can I have one for my aunt?" And so I gave him the name of the seamstress. And this shows you that we're able to have another product. You understand? That is made in Grenada. It's an indigenous product. I've been speaking to L.A. Purcell in terms of bringing plain fabric in. You see the dress where the skirt is that tartan material, and maybe doing something that is, that you can distinguish it from the other islands. So maybe we'll have a nutmeg print, we'll have a cocoa print, we're the Isle of Spice. And I keep using this term. It's a moniker that we do not, I don't want to say we do not, let's use a positive spin, that we have to keep. We must keep. It's ours. You understand? Our forefathers have fought for it, have died, sweat, blood, tears. And it's important that, it's like government. Every government is supposed to improve on the other government. And so, this one has to improve on the other one that passed. The other one that come again have to improve. It is that constant thing. So let us be grateful for our heritage, because heritage and culture are 2 important aspects of the tours that we do. It has to be culturally sensitive. It has to teach individuals within the diaspora as well as in Grenada what is it we do, how life was. And the Europeans about World War II say least we forget. And we also, as Black people in the Caribbean, have to teach our children, least we forget what happened. Because if we and remember the struggles, and we fall short. Listen to me, I'm not perfect. We fall short. We're going to make mistakes. But we always have to remember where we come from, where we did, in order to know where we going.
Yeah. I'm so glad you talk about this, because first and foremost, I'm not a fan of the Pure Grenada brand. Perhaps when the directors of tourism appear on the Bub Report, I will challenge them on this Pure Grenada. Grenada, the Isle of Spice, I think as Grenada having so many spices per capita is something that is unique and indigenous to Grenada. That's not unique and indigenous to other parts. But we also say that we are pure, and we litter. We do so much illegal littering and dumping on the island, but don't even get me started on that.
So hold on, you have two topics. Hold on, if I may, you have 2 topics there. So I'm going to interject. So it's actually Pure Grenada, the spice of the Caribbean. So when for instance, I have a skincare line called Cocoa Pod Botanicals. I'm busy, okay?
Yes.
I don't have any little children. My son is like 27 or something, so I'm busy. And so when I sell that brand, I sell it. I have 2 selling points as opposed to 1. I have the selling point of this, the spice, and the spice, the cocoa, the nutmeg. I also have that purity. You understand what I'm saying? Meaning that it's clean, it's good for your health. Health and wellness is a big push that Petra is pushing in terms of health, and we have a long way to go in terms of a lot of it. So you can. Sometimes we have to see how is it we can merge the 2. So we have 2 topics that are merged. In terms of the litter, I am also involved with a group called Grenada Green Group. It's so much Grenada. And so again, that is another group, Grenada Green Group. And I mean, lately I have not been very active as before because I'm just this other child takes up all the time. Grenada Green Group has been instrumental in terms of trying to make sure the Anti-Litter Act is passed, as well as trying to make sure that we remain clean. I mean, if you walk throughout the country a lot, and there's so much campaigns like right now, and because you say that, I will get them to contact you so they'll come on and talk about what they're doing, because they have really stepped up in terms of anti-litter, and people are listening, because we can't say that we's pure Grenada and we full of garbage. You understand? So so they have really and truly been doing quite a lot in terms of that. And I must commend the team. You know, trust me, you know, the messages come in, but this other child takes up all the time. So we're not, as with everything else, we're not where we ought to be, where we're supposed to be, but with baby steps, we're getting there.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we go to the next segment, can you talk about the tour, and perhaps that's your North American tour? I know that you're waiting those approvals from the FDA, export approvals as part of that process. But talk to us about the tour and what cities you'll be in, so that Grenadians in those cities will be able to participate in those activities. And we also have a comment here from Meme, who is saying there's a place called DMV. You can come here. I think he means the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia.
Well, it's funny. Hi, Meme. So we are going. So that she said that's in Virginia.
Correct.
Okay. So in December, we were invited to come to Miami, because last year we were in Miami for the Caribbean Summit. And then I spoke to someone in Georgia, and he said, "So when are you coming?" I said, "Oh, so we tagged that on." So Meme, if you send me a message on Grenada Agro-tourism, not Facebook. I can't do both. I tell all you, I'm a lawyer, but I should have taken about Instagram. So I'm very much on Instagram. Or either one, actually, you would find my number. So let me give you my number. It's 473-403-1697.
That's
So
403-403-1697.
Yes, that's my number. Okay. Thank you. So call me, send me a WhatsApp message, and we go see how Trisha, Simon, and the rest of the TT gang go into Virginia. So back to that's in December. Back to the tour that we're talking about, that is October, November. And I must say, you know what? We forget to say thank you. And I must say, when it comes to our events, we get help from the Ministry of Trade. Listen, P.S. Clark, you send P.S. Clark a message, next day P.S. Clark responds. You understand? Agriculture.
Clark. Yeah.
Exactly. Agriculture, P.S. Bagwan is the same thing. He says, "Trisha, you always want money." I say, "It's not for me, it's for the group." You know, it's not for me, it's for the group, so we can do different things. I mean, we could not have had those expos without the two PSs, nor with GTA. There's nothing that I have called Petra for, and Petra has not said, "Trisha, look." There is, this year we also got sponsors from Flow. There is nothing that I can call Cooperative Bank for, and they would not say, "Here, we will give it to you." Marketing Board and all of the other sponsors, Waggy Tea, when we have these events, or, so as I said, in terms of where we're going, we are going now to Toronto. The Grenada Boca Association is having an event on the 19th in Toronto. If you can Google, if you go to our social media pages, you would see their flyer there. So, and what we're going to do is showcase what we have. As you said before, we cannot sell anything because, not everybody has, but we will do samples. So some of the products that we have on sample, we have Calypso wine, which is, the Panman Bosco is selling wine now. You have Picancy, who, you have Masons. There are quite a few people who we're able to do sampling with. So we sample lots of different things. So we go to Toronto, and then we're going to go Manhattan. So Manhattan is with the Council General. So once we finalize exactly the location, we will put it up on our social media, and the other parties will also put it up on their social media, especially the Council General will put everything up as well. Then Big Mac has been gracious, and we know that date for sure. The 26th of August, we're going to be at Labbe Market. So we're going to be showcasing what is it we have in Grenada. And it's interesting when we attend these events that people would say, oh, look at the packaging. There's I'll Be Well who does, he has a skincare line, and people were like, oh my God, I love the bamboo packaging. It's different. Picancy is award winning in terms of her chutney. We also, so Labbe Market, we haven't said the time, but we know we're going to be there. I'm going to be cooking some cocoa stew, some Grenada cocoa stew, as well as with GTA would be graciously allowing us to tag along, as I would say, which is very unusual because she says usually it's not the hotels. So you see, sometimes what I've come to realize is I go ask for something. You go either say yes or you go say no. It's up to you. And if you tell me no,
the worst thing you can say is no. Yeah.
But hold on. When you say no this year, I'm coming back next year, you know. Or yes.
That's right.
Yes, I'm coming back next. Hey, you could say no, and you know, you have to give me justification for saying no. You know that. This is about country development. We have to be able to help each other. We have to remember that Grenada has. If you don't put the money, if some of the money don't come into the middle of the island, you're gonna have problems. So we have to make sure that the money circulates. For instance, a farmer now is able to do a tour, and he is able to help his family, help his children to go to school. And then they don't have to depend on the government for this and that, come off seed. You understand what I'm saying? All of these things. So then we're going to be going to Boston and Connecticut. I know it's the 28th and the 29th. There's also Blend Up Seasoning, who is a Grenadian-based agro processor in the US. So we're going to try and do something with him, and try and link with some of the influencer chefs. You know, next year, I think we're going to just like do a lot of things because next year we're going to be doing much more. Every year we improve. You know, it was in the middle of COVID. I said, oh, let me come together. They said, yes, we didn't do much. But now that, you know, COVID is finished, and we're focusing, as I said, on health and wellness. We get the grants from different agencies. We're able to do things because once if you have a farm and you have a toilet, you're set, you know. And you know, listen, how should I say? I came back to Grenada. I was always back and forth, but I came back in 2020, February, and I was supposed to leave in March. Then we all know what happened, and I decided to stay. And listen, Grenada has so many opportunities for growth to be able to do things, and it's shocking. You know, it's shocking in terms of what is it you could do in Grenada in terms of a business. And, you know, just take the necessary precautions in terms of, okay, I want to, you know, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. I mean, you can't decide you're building a property in Grenada and you don't have a camera in your place. Get a like a $500 camera. Any business you have, I suggest you get a security system and you put it up. So once you have things in place, you're good, and it helps the country to develop. You know, so and so. Mimi, I'm looking forward to see you. I would see you hopefully in December, and I thank you for the invitation. We can hopefully plan something, and it would be good if other people in the diaspora can reach out to me and say, Trisha, can you guys come up and do a little expo? I am in so and so. I'm in Texas. I'm in the UK. Next year we're going to tackle the UK, and let us come out to showcase and do these samplings so you can see what is it we have. And so when you come, you know, you have something to do. It's about giving back. This for me is about giving back to Grenada. You know, spending my time and giving back.
Absolutely. Ms. Simon, thank you so much for appearing on this week's edition of the Bub Report.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yes, absolutely. Viewers and listeners, that is Ms. Trisha Simon. She is the president of the Grenada Agro Let me just make sure I get that. Agro-Tourism Association. Yes, the Grenada Agro-Tourism Association, talking and articulating how agro-tourism can in fact be part and parcel of the Grenada tourism product. Now, viewers and listeners, this is break. We go down memory lane to remember the late Edwin Eggis Thompson, a calypso giant who transitioned last week. Now, one cannot talk about the glory days of Grenadian calypso in the 1990s without talking about the contributions made to the art form by Eggis. He gave us hits such as Boom Baloom, Swing the Boom, Be Free, Come Again, Sugar Stick, and other songs. We do extend condolences to the family of Eggis and thank him for his invaluable contribution to the rich mosaic of vintage Grenadian music and culture. This is the Bub Report, folks. Do stay with us. We'll be right back for the second segment of the program. So please stand by for that.
Fire, she said, yeah, go give them a beating for doing such a thing, brother. Who light the fire? When the buildings start to blaze, all the masses was amazed. They sent and called the fire brigade, but they couldn't make the burn. They had to call on civilians to really lend a hand. All the documents burning, and nobody going in. Oh, the treasury burning, and people they falling murder. Who set the fire? They said, yeah, go give them a beating for doing such a thing, brother. Who light the fire? Wicked. Oh, the treasury burning, and people they want it murder. Who set the fire? She said, yeah, go give them a beating for doing such a thing, brother. Who light that fire? Was two khaki police that used to guard the treasury. Now the whole damn place burned down, man, they turned their station. Well, I noticed recently, things start getting funny. Documents start getting hot, so it's there the fire start. Oh, the treasury burning, and Granny they burning murder. Who set the fire? She said, yeah, go give them a beating for doing such a thing, brother. Who light that fire? Wicked, I can. Oh, the treasury burning, and Granny they burning murder. Who light the fire? She said, yeah, go give them a beating for doing such a thing, brother. Who light the fire? Well, I hear a fella say that he hope he get the pay. Oh, we had a love letter with enough Yankee dollar, and he has a strange feeling that it burn in the building. If he had reached here earlier, he would have thief a computer. Oh, the treasury burning, and Granny they burning murder. Who light the fire? She said, yeah, go give them a beating for doing such a thing, brother. Who set the fire? Wicked. Oh, the treasury burning, and Granny they burning murder. Who set the fire? He said, yeah, go give them a beating for doing such a thing, brother. who light this fire? Well, we had enough to say on that critical Friday. All your ball on sabotage, so they call this Scotland Yard. When they really checked the scene, they said it was no gasoline. The report really hit she hard. The fire was electrical. Boy, the treasury burning and Granny they burning. Murder, who set this fire? She said, yeah, go give them a beating for doing such a thing. Brother, who light the fire?
Should your loved ones pass on, they deserve to be treated with dignity. And at S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, we can provide you with that service. We can take you every step of the way during your sorrowful moments. When that need arises, call S.A. Johnson Funeral Home at 347-777-9797. That's 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home is a Caribbean family-owned funeral home here in Brooklyn, providing funeral services, but in a dignified way. From cremation to burial to the repatriation of your loved ones, you don't have to go through the hassle, as we provide exceptional service that allows you to mourn and heal peacefully. For more information, visit our website, www.sajohnsonfuneral.org. Send us an email at sajfuneral@aol.com or call 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, because you deserve to be treated with dignity.
And viewers and listeners, welcome back to this week's edition of the Bub Report. Now, on the back end, we just went down memory lane and paid tribute to the late Eggies. Of course, that particular calypso, I remember it very well because I was very young. I was probably 8 or 9 years old at the time. And at that time, what is now the financial complex, that was then the Grenada Treasury, where the post office was housed, there was a major fire there in 1990. That would have been on the 29th of April, the late night on the 29th of April, and that entire financial complex that we know now is, of course, a new building, but that particular song really spoke to that particular major incident back in 1990, and Eggies reminded us of that, and of course, Eggies also gave us another list of amazing hits, and certainly he's one of those calypso artists that I grew up with as a child in Grenada. So we thank Eggies again for his contribution to the culture, and may his soul rest in peace. Now, for the second segment of the program, we turn to the private sector response and perspectives around Hurricane Beryl. Now, the hurricane hit Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines on the 1st of July as a Category 4 hurricane, increasing to Category 5 status thereafter. This made it the earliest Category 5 Atlantic hurricane on record, and among the worst storms to hit both St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Grenada since record keeping began in 1851. Now, over 80,000 people were potentially affected by Beryl across both countries, and nearly 60,000 people are estimated to still be in need of humanitarian assistance. Now, while governments and regional organizations stepped up to assist in the immediate aftermath of Beryl, the private sector also stepped up to support Hurricane Beryl recovery. Now, according to a press release from the CARICOM Private Sector Organization, they said, quote, "Collaboration by the private sector across the region speaks volumes to what can be accomplished when resources are joined to a common cause. By working together, the private sector has shown the strength and resourcefulness of the collective. This spirit of collaboration will augur well for advancing the collaboration and cooperation on the CARICOM single market and economy. The Caribbean Private Sector Organization continues to partner in the relief and recovery response with SEDEMA and the governments and regional and national business support organizations," unquote. Now, here to make sense of the private sector view of Hurricane Beryl recovery are Senator Salim Rahman, who represents the private sector in the upper house of the Grenada Parliament, as well as former senator, his predecessor, Mr. Christopher Yali, who, of course, is the proprietor there at Citizens, as well as, of course, as we said, former senator. And I believe the co-host of Community Forum is a program that I do tune into as well with yourself there, Mr. Yali, as well as Mr. Philip Gittins. Mr. Gittins, you're joining us for the first time, sir. Mr. Gittins, of course, is an insurance expert. Mr. Gittins, if you can turn your camera on, and you're also the managing director of Antillean General Insurance. So we want to thank all of you gentlemen for appearing on the Bub Report this week.
Thank you, Karen.
Yes, Mr. Gittins, just unmute your microphone there.
Morning to all.
Yes, Mr. Gittins, this is your first time on the Bub Report. Senator
Yes,
Rahman has been here before, as well as Mr. Diali. So it's good to have you here, sir, because one of the things we have to talk about is insurance coverage in this very fraught climate change era, and what that looks like in respect of those payouts that a lot of your insurance companies are required to do, and whether or not we are in fact enforcing best practices in respect of where people should be building. Because if you're going to be building your house on sand, and every time a hurricane comes, it blows your house away, then what is the point of you covering that house with respect to insurance, right? So these are some of the issues we are going to get into, gentlemen. But gentlemen, we want to begin by talking about there appears to be a food security issue right now in Grenada. We just heard the stories of the rice shortage, and of course, many commodities, and I'm talking now of agricultural commodities. We're not talking about canned goods that we import or processed chicken that we import from North America. I'm talking about the price of breadfruit, for example, the price of different things. In respect of the private sector there, Senator Rahman, I want to start with you. Can you articulate those commodity challenges that the private sector is facing, especially in the aftermath of Beryl?
So first of all, I would like to say good morning to you and to my fellow panelists and to our nation at home and our citizens in the diaspora. Good morning to all. Thank you for having me. With regard to, as you will know, most of our agriculture is in the north of the island. And due to the passing of Hurricane Beryl, it is natural that our supply of fresh fruits and vegetables, especially the larger trees such as breadfruit and so on, will be affected. So we have had a supply challenge, and one of the problems is that we don't do a very good job at quantifying what we have produced per product, per agricultural product in the past. So we don't have very good data. What we do know is that we have a shortage on certain items from time to time, but we don't know what it was 10 years ago, what it was 5 years ago, what it is now in real terms, and what we need to get to. We just know that there's a shortage. And so that needs to change. That level of recording where it is planned. You see in markets in the region. Recently, I had the opportunity to speak to people in DevCo in Trinidad, and that's the agency that facilitates farmers, and they provide markets for the farmers to sell and so forth. And they leave the market uninterrupted, free market system. So they can advise farmers what to plant, but they don't tell them what to plant. And I think we need to do a little different in Grenada. We need to basically look to see, and they have very good data. They have 10 years of data that they have collected based on what has been produced. If we start to record our data properly, then we can put farming lands to produce the items that we are short on. So that would be a step to solve the problem, because these are long-term solutions, are long-term for agriculture. They're not all short-term solutions. I mean, we can import from St. Vincent and other places like we have been.
Yeah.
But we need to, for our own national security, we need to make sure and have a local supply.
Yeah, Mr. Diali, in respect of those for food pressures. And of course, the consumers are feeling this pinch. I was talking to my uncle the other day, and like, you know, when he was telling me the price of breadfruit and grain, I could not believe it.
Yes, it has, as Senator Ramans indicated, the northern part of our country was severely hit from an agricultural standpoint, and even from a housing standpoint. I was up in Sate's and general surroundings yesterday and had a survey quickly of damages to homes and so on, but particularly wooden homes have been severely hit. So yes, there is an issue in the northern side of the country. And as Salim indicated, most of our green figs and bananas, pumpkins, and so on and so forth, cocoa, nutmeg, have suffered significantly in that side of the country. So you're getting green figs being sold now where it's available for $7 a pound. And you spoke about breadfruit, which is not much different. So there is serious indication of shortages and what is happening. Bananas will take about 6 to 8 weeks to come back if farmers decide that they want to plant and get the planting material to do that. So I expect the shortages will ease as we get closer to Christmas, as well as we have quite a number of breadfruit trees that survived, albeit in some of them were damaged. But breadfruit is available, but we have to also be asking the retailers and the vendors to be, you know, considerate with the pricing. Yes, there is a shortage and there is a high demand, and the normal thing with supply and demand, what will happen with pricing. But I think we need to just be cognizant that we need to help each other in this time when there are shortages and see how best we could be moderate with the price increases and what is going on in terms of that and availability. So it is a challenge, and hence the reason we had a shortage in rice, because nobody can get ground provisions as they need, so they resort into rice. And the demand in rice, I suppose, from Marketing Board has shot up, and hence the reason that we've seen that acute shortage now. But I want to go back to a point that Salim raised, and just to talk about the importance of Marketing Board in these type of crises and how they can play their part. Our Marketing Board, as you know, have been an avenue to help farmers move their produce in a structured way, and to also assist with advice to farmers on how they should plant and what kind of production methods they should employ. For example, not all soil types can facilitate certain types of growing of short-term vegetables and more medium-term. So Marketing Board is here with the Ministry of Agriculture to help in that sense. And I believe that is what Salim is saying. I agreed. We agree there is more need for more structured data, but there is an avenue that can be used through extension services, both in Marketing Board and Ministry of Agriculture, to assist farmers now to get their lands back up and productive as quickly as possible. I know the government through Ministry of Agriculture have agreed to assist in monetary terms and to send out crews to help clear areas that was affected through Beryl, so that farmers could get back quickly to getting their fields in production. So, Karen, I think that is the way we have to go and see, and that is the issue I think we're facing now with these shortages. I don't think we can import from St. Vincent, because St. Vincent have their own struggles, and with the Grenadines and their own selves, and the southern part of St. Vincent. And then when you look at, I was in Dominica this week. Dominica have a lot available to offer, but of course, transport is going to be the big thing, getting it from Dominica to south, something we have not solved in the region for decades.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mr. Gittins, let me bring you in here, sir. And of course, you know, in research for this program, I was reading an article, and I'm going to quote from that particular article now. Let me pull it up here. And that is from the Caribbean Council. And what it was saying was that insurance companies that is in the Caribbean are anxiously assessing what could be as much as $500 million in losses following the destruction caused by Hurricane Beryl. The article goes on to talk about catastrophe risk modeling work done by a company, Karen Clark and Company, has estimated that private insurance companies in the Eastern Caribbean are staring down the barrel of close to $510 million in losses. And of course, the article goes on to talk about challenges around reinsurance, especially in this area of climate change. What are you seeing now in respect of people that have been coming forward with claims, at least those who are insured in this period?
Well, let me start by saying morning to you and your listening audience and
Yes,
my
sir.
colleagues. The experience in Beryl and the numbers that you referred to refer primarily to property damage. And so it does not include the agricultural impact, which, as you will see, were it included, will explode those numbers significantly. But if you would permit me, Senator Salem spoke to the question of data collection. And I don't know how else to emphasize the critical nature of data collection. And I will refer to Hurricane Ivan so that I can make my point. Since Hurricane Ivan, I have participated in trying to set up crop insurance for farmers throughout the region, throughout the OECS. And what we have, well, only recently been able to have is the parametric type insurance with government, where upon an event, X amount is paid out. But up to today, we still cannot quantify pretty much most of the agricultural products that we produce on an annual basis. And I don't know how else to emphasize how critical that is, because no insurer is going to even consider crop insurance if we can't speak to quantities, frequency. How often do we grow these things? What is the period, the high risk period and the low risk period? And so what Senator Salem has said there is absolutely correct. We have to figure out how we could capture some data very quickly, because it will help us to be able to develop products that can protect the agricultural sector. So that's it on the agricultural sector. In terms of the property sector, let me start by saying that insurance is a transfer mechanism. It's a risk transfer mechanism. And so when you hear of NADMA I would describe as a cleanup operation. But there's only one real mitigator of these natural disasters, and that is insurance, right? Outside of insurance, somebody has to provide money, some sort of donation, or the property owner has to dig into their pockets to rebuild. Usually very, very, very costly. And what we are seeing coming out of Beryl, as we saw in Ivan, is that most persons who would have built a home in Caracou, St. Vincent, Petit Martinique, and the surrounding areas, St. Patrick's, Grenada, well, not Grenada so much because we had the Ivan experience, but would have built a home 10 to 15 years ago. More like 15 to 20 years ago. And I'm saying that to say that the construction used back then may sustain or may cover you or protect you with a 90 or 95 mile or wind. That is not so today, right? Our average wind speeds are upwards of 110 miles per hour. And so our construction has to be a whole different type of construction. In Ivan, we were hit with a category 3, which they say was 135 miles an hour. And so most of the construction coming out of that post-Ivan was to deal with 135 miles an hour. We are now on average facing 155 miles an hour, right? And so even for the homes and properties that were rebuilt, trying to focus on 140 mile an hour winds, you're seeing that your sustained winds are 155 miles an hour and your gusts are upwards of 160 miles an hour. So we're talking substantial changes in the way we construct in order to protect ourselves and protect property. And so what we saw in Caracou, St. Vincent, St. Patrick's, and so on was a lot of devastation caused by poor construction, inadequate construction, and under-insurance.
Yeah.
The question of under-insurance. So you insure your home or your property 10 years ago, and say you built it for $300,000. But you know, like all of us do over time, you add on a room here, you add on a downstairs, you add on 2 apartments to your property. And despite being asked time and again on renewal, have you made any changes to your property? The homeowner says no. The property owner says, no, I have not. And there are 2 reasons for doing that. One is you really don't realize that, in fact, you have to inform the insurer of the changes that you made. And 2, that they purposely don't do it so as not to get a premium increase, right? And then we have an event hit. And you find yourself now underinsured. And that is some of the real crisis that we find ourselves in today.
Yeah. Michigan, let me pick up on something you articulated here. What I hear you saying here is that premium holders, your premium holders, perhaps fudge the truth on their insurance declaration. So the question I have to you is, how then do you enforce best practices? Do you not, as insurance, do you not inspect properties to trust but verify claims that people are making? Because now someone will be coming to make a claim, yes, that, okay, my house was destroyed, that, you know, I did not expand the house, but which I really did expand the house, and therefore making a claim on what that value should be. What does that look like?
Right. So very complex matter you raised here.
Yes.
So insurance is based on absolute good faith. So you come to me and you say, I have a car, I have a house, I have a boat, and I want to have it insured. And I say to you, sure, I will insure it for you. Give me the details of the property. And you say to me, it's worth $450,000. I have no obligation to prove that what you are saying is correct, right? It's absolute good faith. I take you at your word and I insure your property. The problem for you is that when there's an event, the problem for the insured is when there's an event. And then I show up with an adjuster and say, assess this property for me. And I find, well, you know, in fact, it was not $450,000, but it was $1 million, right? That obligation is on you. But there's a little complexity to that, because what you will find too is most property owners will take out a mortgage, and the banks do a 3-year cycle. Well, we do it now, but that has emerged, where we ask you to value your property. With the banks, they insist on it, and sometimes they pass that information on to the insurer, sometimes it's not. Right? But there is no obligation on the insurer to mandate to you that you must provide a current assessment of your property. So that's where we find ourselves. That's the kind of marketplace we find ourselves now. Some of us in the industry, in fact, insist now on engineering reports. Why engineering reports? Because we want to see not just that you have a building, but how was that building built? And that is critical to our assessment of risk, right? For instance, coming out of Eyeying, we discovered that many houses could have survived had they just had hurricane clips, right? So that's something we would look for. Ring beams, right? So we now require engineering reports that allow us to kind of better assess the property. But I don't know that that is industry-wide. And so the property owner has that responsibility to declare what it is they want insured.
Absolutely. Mr. Gittins, I'm going to get back because there are some other pressing questions on this issue here, especially in respect of the liability of storms and this idea that, you know, if you live in certain parts, at least I know that's happening in parts of Florida, where insurance companies are refusing to even insure properties. And so we will talk about the role of best practices in terms of inspection regimes. By you just mentioned the person that does is it the underwriter that does the work with the insurance? The adjuster, sorry. Correct. The adjuster and the role of physical planning unit, for example, and all of those regulations and enforcing those best practices. But Mr. Diali and Senator Rahman, I want to bring you gentlemen back here and talk about the private sector, the initial private sector response to Beryl, which I believe many in the region commended the private sector for how it stepped up in that initial phase. Now we are getting into that post-recovery phase, and now we're going into the rebuilding phase. What are some of the issues that the private sector in Grenada are talking about in this rebuilding phase? Senator Rahman, I'll start with you.
So recently, as you may know, 2 days after the hurricane, we were on the ground. I was on the ground in Carriacou on a humanitarian mission just to assist with the distribution of food. Many companies in Grenada assisted, and many companies, businesses abroad in the region, especially in Trinidad, assisted by way of direct vessels to Carriacou. And so I stayed there for 2.5 days. So then the need was different. It was basic essentials, food, water in particular, and so on. Now the need is rebuilding materials, and has been for a little while. And so recently, through the Grenada Chamber of Industry and Commerce, we were able to partner with the Couva Point Lisas Chamber of Commerce in Trinidad. And they were able, that chamber was able to fill a container of goods, water, lumber, relief items, especially materials, to send up to Grenada to NADMA, because of course we couldn't consign it to the chamber, because then it would attract duties. We had to consign it to NADMA. And so it was consigned to NADMA, and they cleared it and they distributed it in, I don't know, according to NIDA, I would assume, as they would normally do. So that effort is ongoing. I mean, if you were to drive past the port on a morning, you would see all the way up to Grenada Yacht Services and around the corner, you would see trucks fully laden with materials. If you were to drive past Morris Bishop Highway now, today, you would see in Ramdani's yard a lot of lumber, much more than they have ever imported before. And so this presents an opportunity for competition amongst the hardwares and for increased business and supply for, not everything that comes out of a hurricane is negative. It gives an opportunity to build back better. It gives an opportunity, Flo has said that their system, they're going to put in a brand new system in terms of cable and so on, fiber optic cable and so on, so the internet connectivity and the grid there, so to speak, would be better. So there are a lot of positives coming up. Of course, it's a day at a time, right? I mean, one of the challenges in Carriacou right now is the labor component. Recently, 2 Sundays ago, government has started their Build Back Better homes in Dumfries, and there's a Trinidadian company, charitable company, that is actually building 27 homes in Carriacou, including furnishing. So that's 77 homes right there that is intended for Carriacou, but this build out takes some time. So that's where the difficulty and the trials come in, at different levels, because people have, if you looked at the pictures, you would see that in some cases there is a house in the middle that was hardly touched, and around it all the other houses were completely damaged.
Yeah.
So people have their needs are different, and government has a huge job to do, to continue to do, to ensure that they try to meet the needs of every citizen in Caribbean. So the business sector that responds part of that assistance.
Mr. Daly?
Yeah, Karen, I think the business sector, the private sector response to the disaster, the disaster after Beryl was obviously well documented and is to be commended, particularly our businesses out of Trinidad. They have always been, since Ivan and now, been very sensitive to what happens in our countries, both in the Grenadines and, of course, Carriacou and Grenada. And of course, that is something that we are absolutely happy about. Most of our companies keep very close to, especially those that have subsidiaries in the island. So, for example, my group, the Ansamakal group, we sent up a container with a lot of stuff about a week after Beryl with food and water and construction materials. So we sent up blocks, masonry blocks, because, you know, we have the largest facility in the region for blocks and clay, both masonry and clay. But I'm a little less positive than Senator Rahman, because I have been very critical of the government in terms of the response to the situation, the Build Back Better in Carriacou, because after Ivan, we learned very clearly that we do not have the capacity, both from a human resource standpoint and from a technical standpoint, to get things to happen quickly. We had, after Ivan, gentlemen and resources coming out of Cuba to help with electrification, out of Trinidad, out of Barbados, and so on. And I have said openly that I think the government have not structurally dealt with Carriacou and Petit Martinique as they should, and what we would have learned from Ivan. We had in Ivan times an institution called ARD. I think it was the Agency for Reconstruction and whatever, where we brought in technical people, engineers, to help with the Build Back Better and to ensure that the homes that we're going to be offering are going to be homes that can resist, as Brother Gittin said. The intensity of the systems now are getting so much higher that we need to ensure. And I have said that I think deployment of houses and homes in Carriacou, in Ivan time, Dr. Bob, we had criteria established for people who elderly, had no insurance and cannot afford, those within a certain payment category, what we will do, and those who could afford. So it was structured in such a way that once you did the assessment, quickly, Carriacou is 6,000 people thereabout, 90%, 95% destruction, 90% of them didn't have insurance because of the type of structure. Do we really want to put back a wooden structure on a piece of land in Carriacou that can't sustain 100 miles per hour winds? And I think these are the things that we need to look at. I know some of our private sector companies have approached government institutions to look at building back better in terms of using concrete blocks, proper foundation, and so on. Yes, it will take longer. But my point about, and Sally mentioned it, the labor issue. We can resolve the labor issue. It is about talking to our partners in Venezuela, talking to our partners in Cuba, talking to our partners in other countries where we could bring in. And you may talk about, we can't do it because, we have issues with where they would live and stay. But we knew a week or two after, when certain companies went up to Carriacou to help with clean up and other things and so on. We made ends meet, and guys were able to stay in certain parts. There are areas in Carriacou that you could give priority to Chinese development houses, which was damaged but not significantly. And we could use these as temporary accommodation, and other areas in Carriacou where we could get to the people and put on homes and do it quickly. Remember, Kellan, we now approaching December, fast. And could you imagine the impact on our elderly and others who can't go back to Carriacou because they don't have a home, they can't afford to build a home, and even the families of those individuals and the elderly are going to be a distress because of their own commitments. And after Ivan, we learned quickly that the frequency of deaths after the hurricane was among the elderly because of the trauma and because of the psychological impact it had in being able not to go back to familiar surroundings. And if they go back, they don't have a home. And how are they going to deal with it? So I just believe that the footprint in Carriacou is a lot smaller than what happened in Grenada and Eyeying. And our reaction has been too slow and not organized, in my view, as I think it could have been. And I have been critical of that. And I think if we did it better, and I appreciate what Senator for Implementation, Andy Williams, is doing now, and that they're trying quickly to get some things up. But I believe that if we structure it better in terms of all the capacity issues that we're facing, Salim said that they sent up a container of construction materials to NADMA. That to me is a waste of time, in the sense that that should have gone directly to Carriacou and Petit Martinique through an agency or something set up that could facilitate it, assessment done, and we know how we're deploying it properly so that everybody can. I remember, in these crises, the reality is that some things go to places that they don't need to. And we need to manage that as well. That is just the reality and the nature. So we need to have it better structured, in my view. And I'm a little bit disappointed with the response from that perspective.
Senator Rahman, what I hear Mr. Dialli saying here is that structurally, and logistically, the response is chaotic.
To some extent, you would have that. It's an emergency situation. When Hurricane Ivan hit, the then government that was in power had not had experience with something like that before. And so they would have had challenges, tremendous challenges, to build back in terms of assistance, labor, and on these things. And they were able to do it. And this government, I mean, you have to remember, we're coming on to 3 months. It's not a long time since the hurricane has happened. And so it is true that we see that there has been a strain on NADMA by having this one agency coordinate so much. They were flooded with goods, and it was difficult. And I remember when I went out to them second day and asked them about vessels for the private sector that can take, because so many private vessels went up, and private sector people find a way to get their stuff done. They contacted private individuals and took stuff up by private vessels. And I asked them about large vessels that was going up, and they said they were all booked, and they were busy trying to coordinate agencies from abroad that wanted to come to assist. And so it is the sheer volume. So yes, NADMA did do a very good job. They did with the resources and the facilities that was given to them, but there's bound to be a bottleneck. And so I take the point that Senator Dialli says, that perhaps they could have had more than one, but that is what was given, that you had to bring it through NADMA. And then also, you see, that was done for accountability purposes, because if you don't consign it to NADMA, a lot of people could do a lot of things with material, and they could the government may lose out on some of the the legitimate ways by which they collect revenue at the port. So with regard to what Senator Dialli says, there are some things I agree with, and there are some things that you can't get everything perfect, because they are 3 months on. And this government, like the last one when Hurricane Ivan hit, they didn't have the experience of dealing with that. Because remember, you have a shift in government and new ministers. And so, in large part, I have spoken to 2 people, business people, this week in Carriacou. One is insured, as we're speaking about insurance. He said to me about 10-11% of Carriacou is insured. And the other was not, is not. And the one that is insured, I asked him about the payouts and the response from the insurance companies, and all the insurance companies but one, he said satisfactory things about. Of course, I'm not going to mention the one because that's just an individual's opinion. And the second one was not insured, is not insured. And I asked him, I said, did you get assistance from government? has government assisted you? He said, yes. He said he put his name down, and he said in 3 weeks his business is already running, and in 3 weeks he'll be back up and running fully, at full capacity as he was before. And he said that he got about 50 sheets of ply and galvanized, and 2x4, sorry, and galvanized, and he's very grateful for that. So there are challenges. There will be people that don't get the assistance that they need in the manner that they want it or expect it. But generally, the work is ongoing and relief is coming. The houses are being built. This is the second week, I've been told. I reached out to that businessman who told me that. There's also the loans. The loans that government, when Prime Minister went up and met with the business community, and our executive director of the Chamber of Commerce accompanied him. They have $25 million, approved $25 million in loans for the private sector in Carriacou through GDB. And that was supposed to commence, that program was supposed to commence on the 1st of September. But it is going to be commenced this week, I was told. And the reason why is because of the office that was supposed to house it. There was a little delay in the readying of the office to facilitate that outlay. So now that is going to be happening, where the private sector will have access to developmental loans to the tune, the total amount is 25 million AC dollars. And that's a very good sign. And so we're happy to see that. So there are some teething issues, there are some challenges, but overall, as I said, one day at a time. One of the challenges that remains is the skilled labor. And so Senator Diali made a good point about with regard to that. And I think that the government would do well to look into that.
See, Karen, my difference
with go ahead, Senator.
Is not that government is not making the efforts and putting, having the monies put aside and so on. My difference with the senator is that we should have learned from the Ivan experience and not talking about this government is relatively new to this experience. We have the data from the Ivan experience. We know what worked and what did not work well. Carriacou is not 100,000 people or 90,000. Carriacou is 6,000 or less people. So the footprint is much smaller. And the capacity issues the senator speaks to, of course, exists, as you will have in every disaster after. Clean up, how you deal with it, what happens to the people and how quickly we could get it, where we get the boots on the ground. The electrification aspect of Carriacou have happened quickly because of the assistance of Carilec and deploying men into Carriacou to electrify the place. We cannot electrify homes because homes are not up. Some businesses have roofs on, have to be inspected before they get electrification. So all of those are capacity issues that I'm speaking to and what the senator is saying. I'm not saying that the government have not done what it ought to be done. And my only critique of NADMA is that I understand NADMA's role, but you know that if you have something like that, you have to be able to call on resources outside of your own, where we have capacity, and deploy as quickly as possible so that the trauma, the effects, and everything of what is going to... Because remember, after every system like that and a disaster, the trauma continues for months and years. And that is another aspect that has to be dealt with. So I'm just saying, I agree with the senator, and I don't have my difference is in our response to the areas that we really need the capacities to be addressed. And we do, Senator, have the experience of Ivan. We must have the information. When I gave you the information about how we dealt with criteria and setting up to assess homes, that came from Ivan. That was developed then. So we do have it, and that is the issue I'm hammering on, and I'm not happy about, because we don't have to reinvent the wheel, regardless of who government is in power.
Well, the reality is that we still have the same, or more or less the same, public servants. So,
Senator, that's why we have to bring in specialists to do what we have to do.
Yes, Senator, go ahead.
Yeah, so
finish up your thoughts, Senator.
Yeah, so the need is, I mean, we're not, I take the point that Senator Diali has made, that we have lessons that we should have learned and processes that we should have followed. And there's definitely, in every response, there will be some shortcomings. What is now important is that as we approach 3 months, we identify what these current needs are, just like in any business. When you have a shortage on stock or you have a problem, you identify what these shortages are, where the major shortfalls are, and you address them. So that's what the government would need to do. And we have to make sure we can be critical, and it's important to be critical, and it's important to speak about areas that we feel and we see from hindsight, from experience, that are not performing properly. But the next step is what? Is the how. The next step is the how, and that's what we want to see them clearly defined. So if there are areas where there are shortfalls, we need to see, government needs to see where they are and address them. But from what I have asked recently up to this week, even one businessman said, I asked him, I said, how much of Carriacou has regained power? He said about 70 to 80%. So if that is the case for 3 months, I don't see that as a bad thing. But I said, why isn't it more? He said, because some of the roofs of people's homes are still unfinished, and that's why they can't get connection. So Senator Diali said the same thing. So it's just
70% of Carriacou, 80% of Carriacou have power, but not the homes.
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Some of the homes
it's available for connection,
because they're not
being able to connect
because the construction is not finished.
That's right.
Gentlemen, we're going to get the next conversation will be the budget and inflation, and of course the supplementary budget that was passed. But I do want to bring back Mr. Gittins here, and Mr. Gittins, there was some comments here while you were having a conversation about the insurance, with one person complaining that the more that she pays into a premium, insurance premium, is the more that the prices keep going up, right? But I think context matters here in the context of premiums, especially for private property premiums in this climate change era. What are some of the challenges insurance companies are confronting, especially from their reinsurers? I'm hearing that perhaps there might not be a big appetite from some of your reinsurers to really cover a lot of those cost estimates that would come as a result of the damages resulting from hurricanes. What kinds of conversations are you having around those issues in Grenada and perhaps the Eastern Caribbean?
I want to kind of address this in 2 parts. And the first part is, in our previous conversations, we heard lessons learned as being part of that conversation.
Yes.
And when we look back at Ivan, a lot is said about insurance companies, and people tend to have this opinion that all they do is thief free money, and they take free money, and they don't do anything for us.
Mistrust, by their goodness.
Yes, correct. But there are some realities that we must also face. In Ivan, the data shows that 6 months after Ivan, the insurance industry paid out over $490 million to homeowners on the island. Right? And we only had, at that time, about 20% of the housing stock insured. I want you to digest that number for a little bit. Right? You're talking over $490 million. Mr. Diali, I'm sure you could remember our GDP in those years, which was somewhere around $700 million. Right? And the insurance industry paid out $490 million in 6 months. I want you to recall the economic activity that took place in that time and what drove that economic activity, right? So, and you only had 20% of the housing stock insured. There is no mitigating activity other than insurance to help any government to help its people recover after a natural disaster. And no government has made any move to advance an insurance program for properties to help us as a nation. Right? So I will just say that and sit that there. Nothing has been done to educate, to help, to devise a program. We hear about a health program, we hear about all sorts of other programs, but there is no program that I am aware of where we are aiming to address the question of recovery after a natural disaster. Right? So I leave that part there. The second part I want to address is the question of reinsurer. You would recall between 2017 and 2019, there was 1 year we had 5 Category 5 hurricanes move through the region. And they went all the way from Antigua up to Florida. And the damage done was in the trillions of dollars. Now it is reinsurers who back this money. It is reinsurers who have to cough up this type of capital when events like that occur. And insurers are not in the business of charity. They're in the business of making money. Right? So an insurance, as you would understand, is the pooling of resources. Right? So that everybody, the expectation is that not everybody will be affected by the pooling. And so you can draw from the pool to help those that are affected. But insurers decided after 2017 that that level of cost to themselves demanded that insurance premiums increase. Right? And at the time, the degree of increase that they wanted to have was quite alarming. But many of us in the industry have been able to negotiate with our reinsurers to keep it at a level that was fairly manageable. What we're seeing these years on, because of the consistency of the hits that we are receiving, is that reinsurers are saying, listen, I got to get premiums much higher, much higher. If I'm going to continue to support programs in our region. And so that is what you're seeing now. And customers may feel that, the insurers are just increasing the premiums kind of like opportunistically. That's not the case at all. That's not the case at all. In fact, many of us in the industry have strived to try and manage those increases so as to not have to be so brutal on our clients. So that's approach.
What would be that implication, though? I mean, following this Hurricane Helene in Florida, there were several reports about. I'm talking about $1 million houses on the coast who they're not going to have insurance. Yeah. I mean, that is a huge financial implication there. So yes. What will that mean for us long term, especially for houses that are located in more vulnerable parts of the country? There is another comment here that is asking whether or not wooden houses are not insurable. What are the implications of those issues?
All right. So Hurricane Helene is yet another stack of cost to reinsurers on top of those that I just mentioned. So it's a continuous, over the last, say, 10 years, it's a continuous hit that reinsurers are taking. And the end result for us is they are demanding higher premiums. It is no longer negotiable, right? They are demanding higher premiums. I don't know any insurer who would attempt to not reinsure their portfolio. And so if you're going to reinsure your portfolio, you have to buy what is being sold. And so you are being pressured to increase your premiums as these Helene and other hurricanes become so devastating.
And the question of wooden houses.
Wooden properties.
Are wooden properties not insurable?
Well, I would not say they are not insurable, because there are wooden properties that are insured. Right?
Okay.
The problem with many of the wooden properties is, again, the engineering that is used for them. Some of the properties are just not built. Wooden properties are just not built in a manner that let's just say they're very high risk, very high risk for damage. And so it's not a property that an insurer would rush out and do. But you see, I come back to the point that on a national level, we try to protect health. On a national level, we try to protect pension, big one. But yet, the single largest investment of any human is their property, their home, right? And on a national level, we offer nothing for protection there, right? And so I think that at some point, as a program, a government has to begin to look at some sort of program for certain types of homes.
Mr. Gittins, we have a question here from Bob Marisho. He's saying, in the colonial days without computers, as per the Grenada handbook, they were able to produce those data on crop production and livestock amounts. Can we at least outdo them today? Which ministry of government is responsible for that data?
Well, you're asking the wrong person. Right? I'm not in the ministry, but I could tell you this.
Yeah.
I could tell you this.
Yes.
Having worked on crop insurance for so many years, there isn't one country in the OECS that can reliably produce data on most of their crops, right? And so without that data, there is no conversation to be had from an insurer.
Well, let me say
Chris.
to thing with Philip, and that is, there is structures in place that we could use. Take, for example, export of soursop. We know how much soursop is being exported. That is not difficult to find. You just go to Port Authority and you get it. We have a statistical office that can get it. What we probably don't have is the actual production, but from the data of export, you can extrapolate to production. Similarly, we have data, nutmegs, cocoa. We have data we may not have for small vegetable production, for example, pumpkins and so on and so forth. But we can get that through Ministry of Agriculture and Marketing Board. Marketing Board could tell you how much they buy in every particular item for the year. It is there. It just have to be taken, have a lead person or lead persons in a particular ministry to get the information and collate it. So Philip, it is there. It's just a matter of getting it and collating it.
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
I am not debating. I am not in a debate as to whether it's there or not. My position is this. In every session we have had over crop insurance, we have always had a lot of persons from the Ministry of Agriculture present, and none of them could produce the data.
And we will argue that. I'm just saying it's there.
No, I'm not saying that it's not available. I'm just saying that it's not available.
So we have the senator on the line, so the senator can push that for us.
Senator, you want to give an intervention?
I would argue that most of it is not there. Some of it is there, and I'll give you an example. As I mentioned, I visited Trinidad last week, NAMDEVCO. They have data on about 3,000 farmers, 3,000 plus. There are over 22,000 farmers in Trinidad. In Grenada, there are over 5,000 farmers, right? What we need to do, and this is what I would recommend to the government, we need to be serious about funding agriculture and scaling agriculture. And how we do that is that we need to start with the bona fide farmers. A lot of farmers registered, and when government decided to give the relief after Hurricane Beryl of $5,000 for less than 5 acres and 9,000, everybody decided to register.
Yeah.
Who didn't register, they have their farmer's ID updated from since 2014, they come to register now. You can't blame them, right? Right? They may use it for that purpose, or they may use it for something else. So, but the point is that out of the entire farmer group, there are certain bona fide farmers. I'm a registered farmer, but I'm not a bona fide farmer, right? There are people who sell week in, week out to the supermarkets and to the hotels. These are the people that we need to invest in. These are the people that are taking farming seriously. These are the people that are keeping our tables supplied with tomatoes and so forth. And so we need to identify who those people are through a top-down approach, through the hotels, through the supermarkets and restaurants. Find out who they are, find out where they are farming, find out what they produce, and help them to scale. Provide them with the lands, provide them with the grants, the lands on lease to scale, provide them with the grants, make sure that the lands are close to a water source, so when we have a drought like what we did earlier in the year, they're okay and they don't lose. Make sure the government provides with shade houses and so forth, and interest-free loans at cost. We all have a stake in agriculture, right? You can't develop your tourism product without developing your agricultural product, right? Because when people come here, they want fruit punch. We can't be giving them Coca-Cola to drink. I mean,
Senator, with due respect to you, the information is there in marketing board.
Some of it is there.
Not some.
But there are a lot of farmers that don't sell.
Not some. The farmers that are not there are the small to micro farmers. Right. The major farmers that have an acre, 2, 3, 4 acres, the information is in marketing board. So and to some degree in Ministry of Agriculture. I know because I was there. So I could tell you it with a surety. The information is there.
Well,
what Philip is talking about and the data collection, slightly different. Yeah,
the last point I want to make is with regard to this.
Yes, Senator, go ahead. Yes,
is that when they are supplying, in marketing board, what a farmer recently told me, a farmer up in Grenada recently told me, she and her husband in farming full time, family of 4 children, husband and wife farming. She told me that what used to happen is that the farmers would supply the supermarkets and so on with the grade A products. And because they know marketing board buying this stuff, they would, anything that is not grade A or B, they would supply to marketing board because they're guaranteed sale. We need to make sure that we do have a grading system. We need to make sure, so those that will be supplied to the supermarkets and so on, not all of it will be quantified, and that's why I disagree with Senator Diali. That some, or maybe most, to give him the benefit, but not all. And so we definitely need better data. We need to start with those bona fide farmers. We need to help them to scale. We need to provide concessionary loans or grants for materials and equipment and shade houses and so forth. We need to make sure they have a water source, and we need to make sure and identify the products that the market needs by researching, by going to the hotels and supermarkets to scale those products. That's how we need to do it in order to resuscitate.
And I won't argue that. I want to go to Philip on the insurance thing and reinsurance, because I want to ask Philip a question. Here we are, Helen just destroyed Florida significantly. We don't know yet what is the damage in terms of billions. We know what happened in Beryl when it passed through our islands. The question I have on reinsurers and the increase in premiums, when we take a reinsurer like Lloyd's in England, who has a massive institution worldwide. It is not just for the Caribbean, it's not just for North America, it's for Europe. And we must, in terms of the magnitude of our cost to premium, because that's what they look at, cost to premium ratios, what are generating from us and the cost that's happening. We have to be minuscule in the issue of what is happening worldwide and in terms of damages. And what I don't get from the reinsurers is that there is no sort of consideration given to our cost to premium ratio in terms of reducing the magnitude of the increase in premiums. I'm not saying that shouldn't have an increase, because worldwide, when they do their analytics and they do their costs, we know what is happening to the insurance industry worldwide. So I'm saying to you, Philip, what I don't understand and how they do their increases is that they do it one broad brush across the entire region, in CARICOM and across the entire region, where our disasters are different, by the way, and they don't say to us, okay, guys, you are at X last cycle when we did this analysis, and every year you guys have to go to reinsurers to renegotiate. You are at X. But this time around, because of what I see happening in the US with Helen, you have to pay for that. So I'm giving you 3 times X instead of 1 times X. And that is what I don't understand coming from reinsurers. I don't know if you could answer. I know you're not a reinsurer.
Well, I could give you what I understand of it. We are lumped with Florida. So it's South America, Caribbean, and Florida. That's a huge problem.
Yes.
Because we, just let's take Grenada, does not suffer the degree of loss that Florida experiences every year. Right? But we are lumped with Florida. Right? Because remember, insurance is a pool. And so being lumped with Florida means though we are low in terms of experiences, they are high in terms of experiences.
And we're paying for Florida.
Correct. Essentially.
And I agree with you that I think there must be government intervention.
Whereas that is unfair, I think it is unfair. That's the reality.
Yes, and that is where I support your idea of government intervention regionally, whether it be OECS or CARICOM, to have a conversation with these reinsurers, or if not, be able to supply some sort of subsidy or whatever you want to call it. I can't get the right word. No, for reinsurers, as you say, if we are for health and we are for other things, in most companies where you have health insurance, the company pays 66 or 70-30 or 60-40. We need, I know the government just came out with crop insurance, which was welcome through GCNA and so forth. And excellent. And that, again, that came from our own development in the region, not from outside. And I'm saying, I agree with you, that we should have that conversation to see how government could assist with property insurance and the level of increases that we get. And is there a mechanism that we could use to mitigate the size of the increase?
Let me just throw this into the pot also. Every year, every insurer, and remember, we have 17 general insurance insurers in Grenada. Right? Trinidad has, I think, 8. Barbados has 7. Don't hold me to those numbers, but it's somewhere in that vicinity. We have 17. Each one of our insurers are paying a reinsurer millions of dollars every year. And it is just my humble thinking that what if we pooled that in the Caribbean? What if we decided to pool those millions of dollars right here in the Caribbean and structure our own reinsurer? It's just a food for thought. It's just a food for thought.
I love the idea.
Senator says he loves the idea. Go ahead, Senator.
Yes. You see, colonialism and the remnants of colonialism, one by one, for us to be self-sufficient within our region, whether it's CCJ or whether it's this idea, we need to be able to conduct our own affairs. Isn't that what independence is about?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
That's what independence is about. And we're all independent, and we have a very committed and tried, tested, and proven union within the Caribbean community. That's CARICOM.
Yeah. And well, so I would say the OECS, not so much CARICOM.
I could agree with that.
Right? One from 10 leaves not, yes?
Yes. What I'm saying, they must build on Mr. Giddings' comment. There must be associations within insurance, brokers associations and so on, insurance association within the Caribbean, that they can start to have this conversation. Some will be willing, some won't be willing, just like the CCJ issue. But that is an important conversation within your industry to start to have, because it means loss of...
But it started with the crop insurance.
That is fine. No, but hold on. Crop insurance has been around a long time. We had wind ban around for a very, very long time when we had banana and cocoa. Yeah. So crop insurance is nothing new. The problem we have is this. You make the point that, yes, we must start this conversation within our industry. I don't agree with that, because our industry cannot bring together the governments of the region. And I say that to say The governments have to see the importance of this, right? Why? Because after every event, guess who has to find money to help? The governments of a region. In Ivan, we only had 20% of the house in stock. So only 20% of the house in stock was able to rebuild out of their insurers. 80% had to turn to government for help, right? So whether government is paying, they are paying. They have to pay. So why not be proactive and say, listen, rather than be forced to pay, why don't we put a plan together where we join with the insurance companies and say, listen, let us pool these resources right here in the Caribbean.
The key word there, Philip, is proactive.
Yes.
I leave it in.
And that is a conversation that we need to continue to have. Gentlemen, there is so much that we didn't get to. I think it would require a part 2, especially on this insurance question. Mr. Giddens, I have to say, I found myself going down into a wormhole on this question, and we have not even gotten to, again, building codes or lack thereof, and ensuring buildings that are close to the coast that are especially vulnerable to these hurricane shocks. There's so many variables there that we have not gotten to speak about. But gentlemen, one of the things that we have to talk about has to do with the Marketing and National Reporting Board. The promise from government was that there was going to be a private-public partnership. Do you feel as if that void, that promise not delivered, not kept, is affecting the ability of our producers to be able to not only source produce from outside, but to be able to export produce?
You want me to start?
or Senator Rahman, who wants to start on this? Because, I mean, the government talks about implementation rate. I am yet to see the implementation on this issue.
Well,
and of course, none of you hold water for the government.
If Senator Wanda could spare, man, go
I will let Chris take that.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so we're my last out as chairman of Marketing Board. I can say to you that I don't think, based on recent news, that there have been anything with the private-public partnership with the Marketing Board. I could be wrong, but I haven't seen anything announced publicly. Marketing Board continues to operate as it is, with some reduced activities based on the outlets in various parishes. Yeah. And I must say that I think, I don't want to say the government heard, but I think the discussions on the role of Marketing Board and where it should be, with adjustments to what needs to happen in that authority, should have been held more in detail than what they did. The thing was, they came into government, they saw that the liabilities of Marketing Board are significant, and in my humble opinion, rushed to doing which probably they can't implement up to this day, because you cannot have an organization like Marketing Board be privately run to a certain degree, even there is public contribution, and not understand the true role of the Marketing Board. And that to me was absent in their analysis to some degree, and all they saw was the debt on the government and so on and so forth. And I want to cite this example. When we had COVID and there was little movement of stuff, and farmers needed, because farmers weren't prepared for COVID, they had things in production, it continued to grow, they continued to harvest. They had no way to sell the produce, whether internally or externally. They couldn't go out in the roads, they couldn't go to traditional supermarkets because they were all shut. Marketing Board was the savior, and we just forget that. Marketing Board took in all the farmers' produce, and then we developed a system where we could send to the homes, where we could send to various institutions, the prisons and the hospitals and so forth, so that we ensured that at the end of the day, farmers were paid and they got relief for their produce. They could sell it without being spoiled, and it was used. That is a role we don't always remember Marketing Board played, and it was a pivotal role. I say that to say that this organization is critical. There are things that need to be done to change, to make it more efficient, and we need to do things differently. And Marketing Board, in my view, is a must, is an entity that must stay. And I didn't think the government say, I think one time they said they were trying to close it down, but I think they have reneged on that, because farmers obviously would have not been happy about that happening. But I believe, Kellan, that I mean, I don't know where is the progress with this PPP relationship, but I know that marketing board needs to be structurally reorganized to some degree. Because when I was there, I started that. We didn't finish because there were other issues to be dealt with. But it has to be done, and if it's done, I think it's a viable institution. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And of course, finally, gentlemen, we are going into another budget cycle. We did not even get to the point of having a conversation about this supplementary budget and whether or not the government has the ability. In fact, people who are even sympathetic to the government were wondering whether or not they can implement the wish list of items that they articulated in that supplementary budget, but just because, again, we are coming to the end of the fiscal year, and capacity-wise, the concern was that they just would not have the capacity to implement a lot of that. So what we may see, and those according to the economists, I'm no economist, and I'm citing here people like Dr. Curlin Gilchrist, who sat in several government committees, made the point that there is no shall we say, institutional mechanism in place to be able to implement a lot of what they articulated there. So looking forward to 2025 budget, what are some of your expectations? Senator, I will start with you and then I'll go down.
Absolutely. The Senator had to go first there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. So that's a heavy one. That's right. But you are correct. We're all Grenadians and we want what's best for our country, though we disagree often on how to get there. Definitely, we expected that they would have to go back to Parliament to get additional monies. But to the tune at which they have asked for, that has also, in my mind, it's very difficult. How are you going to spend all of that money within the time frame that you have to spend it? It's a lot. And government is currently engaged in doing major projects. So that is left to be seen how they will do in that regard. But with regard to our economy in 2025, I would like to see greater emphasis be put on to solve the transportation issues, shortages. Many of my workers and workers in the private sector come late to work repeatedly. It is a national problem, or it is a problem of the southern part of the island, I would say, because a lot of our employees come from all over the island. So that getting them to work on time, getting them back home in a timely manner, and having companies, certain restaurants and other companies who want to provide services at night, this system, the public transportation system, I would like to see some funds put in that direction, so that we can improve in that area. That's one. Two, I'm happy to see the airlift, and when you read the midterm report, you could see that tourism is still strong, and even with Beryl, our economy is set to continue to grow 4.7%, I believe, 4.6% rather, whereas the rest of CARICOM is at 3.6%. So we are still above average in CARICOM, even with Beryl, by the end of this quarter, as projected in that report. I would like to see different types of tourism be focused on in the budget, put some monies to those areas. Heritage tourism. When you go to Mexico, and I said that spoke to that in my last budget speech. When you go look at tourism and you go to Mexico, before they would take you to see a site, which is, if you were to see it without a video, it would be of little significance because it's just some ruins. But when you sit and see a video of what it was and how it was utilized and formed part of their culture and their civilization, when you go to see it, then it has a greater impact. We need that at Leapers Hill. We need to tell the stories. We need that at different places so that we can help to enrich our tourism product. The agri-tourism is another one. We need for those people who buy products, the supermarkets, the hotels, the restaurants, to invest with farmers. It doesn't have to be always government lands and government helping with inputs. and PPPs. It can be the private sector going back and investing in the sectors that they need to benefit from. So the supermarkets and so on, those same bona fide farmers, they don't have to wait until government invests in them. They can also help them to scale because it is in their interest. Right now we have 3 major supermarkets in the south, and you have to sometimes shop around to get fresh tomatoes. You go to one, you know, see there, somebody tell you you have it in the next one. You go to the next one, and that's what customers have to do, right? So that will help to solve that problem. I'd like to see that. Health and wellness. I'd like to see from a tourism standpoint. The guest that you had first on this show, I think her name is Miss Tricia Simon.
Yes.
She's heading in the right direction because we need to add value to our agricultural product and our tourism product, and she is doing that with both. She's tying them in. So I love to see that. Electricity. We need to make sure that I know that we have a new manager. We've all seen the reports, and we wish him well, but we need to make sure that there is a stable grid and a plan over the next 5 years or so, or maybe even if it would take them 10 years to lower the great cost of electricity in Grenada. You know, the whatever investments we need to make over a long period, it is true, and I must mention this, that when the last government decided to buy back Grenlec, it is true that the then company did not invest in the way that it should have in some of the generators. And so now we have a situation where some of the generators are aged and so on, and coming to end of term, end of life in their cycle. So we have an opportunity now to plan, and now that it is government owned, to make sure that within the next 5 to 10 years that we can actually begin to see electricity rates coming down, if not sooner. And I would like to see the fuel, the petrol tax that they reduced from 550 to 350, I believe. I would like to see that maintained, so that the economy can continue, people can continue to traverse, and you know, fuel is important in terms of as a commercial activity, deliveries and so on, or trucks on the road and so on. So these are just some things that come to mind. I pass it over to
absolutely. Yes, we will pass the ball to Mr. Gittins. Mr. Gittins, I don't know if you're a cricketer or a football player. Just unmute the mic, sir. Unmute the mic. Football or cricket? I'm not too sure.
I'm both. I grew up in both.
You're both.
But I love cricket.
Okay.
And I used to open bat, so probably.
There you go. Yeah.
Listen, the impact of Beryl is going to be greater economic activity. No question about that.
Yes.
So in the short run and in the longer term, government is going to see quite a bit of revenue being generated, though they have cut costs on certain things and so on. But when you've lost your entire home, you have to buy back everything, right? And that's going to be the strive to do that. Some of the economic areas that, you know, Senator Rahman has referred to, critical, right? But I will talk to mine, which is the development of a local or regional protection mechanism for disasters, which includes the insurance industry, right? It is just too devastating to our economies for us not to address this. We have to address this.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Diali?
Well, I cannot disagree with what Senator Rahman indicated. I think all the areas he touched on are relevant. Tourism and construction is our two biggest sectors now in Grenada that has continued to do well and have kept our economy going. You could challenge services and what has happened in education services in particular and the drop-off in GDP contribution. But generally, I think Senator Rahman is on the ball. I will only add a few things. I think recently, Senator, the property tax and the new valuations for property owners, and I'm not certain if it is extended to commercial properties, but you know the Trinidad government's experience of that. That has been delayed and it's delayed again. And I think we just need to be careful with our consumers that if you have new valuations for your property, Inland Revenue have said we don't know what they're saying. If they're going to keep the old rates or use a new valuation with the old rates, which is an increase anyhow you look at it. Yeah. So we need to be clear and understand and put that on the agenda when we deal with the budget. The fuel tax, I hear you from 5 to 350. I think there is consideration that must be given, if not the tax, what we do to transition our society quickly to EV and using it of PV systems. So in my company, for example, we are looking to put our roof in PV, but we're looking to transition our delivery vehicles to EV as well, because we believe that is the way to go. And I think the government must announce a structured plan, including PERC and all of that. That's how Barbados have it. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We could just look to our neighbor in Barbados and see how it is structured so that by 2030, Barbados is expecting to be almost 100% on EV and systems and so on, and transition the economy. We need to set a target for ourselves, be much smaller in terms of population and what needs to be done. So it shouldn't be a difficult thing. So
they're also making use of the seaweed, the sargassum seaweed.
Correct, with the new vehicle.
With the new vehicle, which is so impressive. Talk about innovation.
Yes, the biofuel.
Yeah.
And that could be extended to all of us.
At the same time, part of that plan that Senator Giali just mentioned, which I agree with, definitely with alternative energy for sure. While Grenlec takes some time to build out and to make the changes, we can't just sit idly by. Businesses need to invest in alternative technology, whether it is not only EVs in terms of cars, but in terms of forklifts and all of these different things. The technology is already there. So,
and you see, Senator, I want to do my roof, and I am not satisfied with the rules under IPP, Independent Power Producer. PERC has to be included in the conversation. I want to invest the amount of money, and I don't know what's happening in my rules under IPP. So it is all of those little things. And the last thing I want to say, and I'm sorry, Kellen, I will ask your leave for this last comment.
Yes, absolutely.
As it regards Carriacou and the relief to Carriacou, my company, for example, have offered relief to Carriacou property owners in terms of a discount to pay in their place, and we're holding it until the end of the year. Special discount for Carriacou. But I mind that some of our businesses in Carriacou are price gouging. And I say that not to be difficult, but I think in times of disaster, we have to see the bigger picture, the individual who is affected, and how we as a private sector are assisting with that relief and to ensure that people get back into their homes as quickly as possible. Thank you, Kellogg, for that.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your appearance on this week's edition of the Bob Report. Mr. Gittins, we hope to see you back again in short order, sir, because you have so much important insights. And I can tell you, based on a lot of the comments, some guests are not fans of insurance, but I believe you probably articulated why the insurance industry is in the state that is in now and why premiums may continue to increase. So, gentlemen, but Senator Rahman, before we go, of course, your brother, who is the Grenada's Consul General to the United Arab Emirates, which headquartered in Dubai, has been in the political news lately, owing to allegations that perhaps a lot of what is funded for that the state is funding for his stay there is essentially overinflated. Do you have any comments on? Of course, we are in an age of talking a lot about fiscal responsibility and things like that. Is that a conversation that you have been privy to, sir?
So the short answer is no. And the long answer is that I found out, a lot of what is being said is being said by people who take a political stance. And while it is important, while, as a public servant, citizens of the country have a right to look into the details of jobs, what they do, what they're supposed to do, are they fulfilling their duties as government has that same right, and what they're being paid to do, and how are they being remunerated. So yes, that is fine. But when people try to link it and make politics out of it, that's when it becomes dirty. That's when it becomes personal and so on. With regard to his remuneration, I didn't know, as God is my witness, what his remuneration was. I mean, I don't speak to him about how much he's working for. I don't speak to anybody about that, so that's a private thing. But I found out about it when I saw it. So it was forwarded to me. That's when I found out. When the rest of the people
on the program.
On that program.
On that particular program.
On that particular program. That's when I found out. And then I saw it on another program. And that's when I said, okay, well, I guess that's what it is, because they are reporting that over and over. So if that were to be an ooh and ah thing, meaning if it was that, oh, this is outrageous, how could they do something like that? There's no comparison. So the person that was there before, there was somebody there before him, the last administration. How much did she get? There's somebody in London. How much are they getting as compared? Because London is an expensive city to live in, as Dubai is. So is New York. So you can kind of compare. To just say something in a vacuum as to why they couldn't get somebody else and so on. I think he presented his resume, which I didn't even know that he did at the time. And even when he was going to school, I remember him saying that he wanted to do political science. And I said to him, why? Why would you want to do that? None of us in the family has ever been in politics.
You come from a family of business, that I know.
Yes, so why would you want to do that? That's like stepping backwards, because politics is filled with so much, misalignment and confusion and lies, generally. And that's why honest people and good people tend to shy away from politics. Not that they are not good politicians, but generally, these people who are saying certain things are paid. They're being paid. And, as a Muslim, I'm taught that there are two muscles of flesh in the body. And if you guard them, paradise will be made easier for you. And the Prophet of Islam was asked, what are they? And he said, what is between your mouth, your jaws, and what is between your legs? If you guard those two, paradise will be made easier for you. Meaning that there are some people that, is it really, okay, you mention it, they can look into it, but measure him by his, or as you would with any other public servant, by what they do. Measure him by his fruits and what he brings and adds. Finally, what I would say about that is that any ambassadorial or relationship, any foreign service relationship, it takes time to build. And so when you're dealing with people abroad, especially since his faith, or my faith as well, our faith, we are Muslim, and most of the people that are from that region are also Muslim. And so being able to break down barriers and to greet them in their language, even though we are not Arabs or we've never been there, right? We don't have family or anything there, any connections. But going there, you know how to greet them. You know what are the do's and don'ts and all of these different things. So it breaks down a lot of barriers. So the opportunity for building relationships is automatically greater. I'll give you one example. As you ask this question, comes to mind that it says in the Quran, in our religious text, that men are the protectors and maintainers of women. Men are charged with the responsibility of protecting and maintaining women, which means that yes, a woman could work, my wife works, and many women professionals work, but men, they have the option. Men don't have that option. So when you are in a society that the men of that society are male dominated, just from a standpoint of relating to them, it is easier for him as a male to be able to do so. It doesn't have to be him. I'm just saying this is to give you an understanding of how the society thinks. So with regard to what has been said in the media and bringing it to light, and that it's a big find and so on. That is for the government and the people to decide. I'm not here to play politics. I'm not a politician. I didn't ask for anybody to vote for me. And I represent the private sector. Everything is for a time. I will do so as long as I can be a benefit to the private sector. And then I'll go back to do what I know how to do. And he studied in that area. He applied for it. He got through with it. So there's some are saying that, we are, the family supported the NDC government. And I like to speak plainly, and I like to bring everything to the fore. There's no ambiguity. There's no underhand business and no ambiguity. So some are saying that and saying, oh, that is why he was appointed there. Well, I don't think that we have the money to support the entire NDC campaign, even if we wanted to. And secondly, I can speak to my father, for example. He is involved with the NDC. And he is involved with the NDC because he was involved with the NNP at one time. When I was a boy, I remember John Watts, chairman of the NNP party, used to come home by us and sit with us and discuss NNP objectives and programs. And so my father was like many others, Dr. Bert Braffett and some of the others that have since been pushed aside. My father was part and parcel of the NNP in the early days. And then for whatever reasons known to him, I remember what I could recall is when we were in Greenbridge as a business person. We were there for 17 years, and then we were told we had to move. And we were not seriously given alternatives, So we had to find a piece of land, which was on the opposite side of the road. We bought it from a guy. Then when the NDC government came in, the government said that, you didn't have the man didn't have the authority to sell that land because a certain time had to elapse because it was government land that was sold to him. So now you have to pay the state. And under that NDC government, it was revalued and we paid. So those who'd like to do research could do research on that too and see how much we paid. So that piece of land that we occupy now in town for our business, we bought twice, right? So I don't see that what are the favors that they speak of. I mean, when I started to do this job and I was asked to be a senator, many of my friends called and said, oh, wow, you're getting a big salary and, you're getting this and you'll get that and so on. And when I saw my first salary was $800 and something. And I have great respect for those senators who have served before me for that kind of salary. You have to want to do it. You can't live on that.
Yeah, the compensation is low to serve in this.
And then, so why don't they speak about that? So and then after this current prime minister raised it, I think it's 3,000 something now, right?
Yes.
But the point is, compared to the region, it's still low. And what you would have to do if you wanted to say that what my brother is receiving is outrageous, you'd have to compare it to others within Grenada and within the region as well. And so not to play politics with it, That's
Absolutely.
what I have to say about that. It's a lot more to do with politics than any substance really.
Absolutely.
What I would do is judge him like I do with my employees or anybody else. Judge them by what they put out. By their fruits you shall know them.
By their fruits you shall know them. You took the word right out of my head, Senator. Senator, thank you so much. Gentlemen, thank you all for appearing on the program. Today's program I thought was extremely educational, as judged by a lot of the comments that we are receiving. And of course, Senator Rahman, we'll be calling on, well, all of you gentlemen, we'll be calling on again as we get ready for the
As a right moment, can I retire at the wrong time? Have a good time, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you.
It was a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, gentlemen. Thank you so much for appearing on this week's edition of the Bub Report. Viewers and listeners, this has been another edition of the Bub Report. We thank you so much for joining us this week. Of course, we'll be having another edition of the program on Sunday. Just to let you know that Sunday's program will not be live, as I will be away are belatedly celebrating my birthday, which I celebrated on the September 26th of last week. But I will be away celebrating my birthday, but there will be a pre-recorded episode of the program in which we intend to also address some of the Hurricane Beryl issues affecting Carriacou. We will be laser focused on that issue next week as well. So on behalf of the producers of the program, I am your humble host, Dr. Kellan Bubb, thanking all of you for tuning in to this week's program, and we will see you next week again for another installment of the Bubb Report. Take care now. Bye-bye. Hi, everyone. Thanks for checking out the Bubb Report's social media pages. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch our weekly live show, follow our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can catch repeat episodes on Wednesdays at 4 and 5 p.m. respectively on CRFM Radio and GBN TV in Grenada. We are also viewed on Sundays at 8 p.m. on WPG 10 throughout the Caribbean. Thanks for watching.